Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Tyrone back with Tech Life. And I'll close out today with this video. Great article from the T-Mo News. So earlier this morning, in the early morning hours, T-Mobile officially announces the date already to the Q3 earnings call. Very early. Caught me off guard. So next week, September 6th, Mike Sievert is presenting at the Goldman Sachs conference. So I'm very, very eager to watch that one because they very early announced Q3 earnings. I'm thinking they're going to have a blowout quarter. It's going to be a huge raise and beat, right? They did a raise and beat in Q1. They did a raise and beat in Q2. And now it looks like they may be exceeding whatever raise and beat guidance they had in place for Q3 and Q4 for the rest of the year. This to me signals they're very confident, right? They just raised pricing with the Go 5G Plus. They raised pricing again with the Go 5G Next. I'm hearing some internal rumblings that the plan actually is very well received. Lots of people calling in asking questions about it. So, I'm not saying that it's droves of customers that are gravitating towards it, but it's gaining some good traction, is what I'm told. And now that T-Mobile is working its way into small market rural areas, the entire Un-carrier model, I got to put it in this video. The entire Un-carrier model was centered around being disruptive and marketing. Right? They knew they didn't have the big bucks to keep up with AT&T and Verizon at that point. They knew they couldn't really scale the network to where they wanted to be, of course, competitive wise. So they had to be loud, disruptive, and they had to use the Un-carrier tactic to really gain ground on the competition, to get people to switch to them, to get people to stay, right? They had to like the pricing. They had to like the perks that came with it. Of course, the network did play a part in that, and I'll always stick to that, because early on when Sprint and T-Mobile were competing, trying to grow its LTE networks, the network sucked, right? T-Mobile was HSPA, half of the network was LTE in some of these markets. At that time, Sprint here, in my market, of course, anecdotal, but they was largely still CDMA 3G, so that was just a mess. And no amount of lowering the price was keeping people. If the network was disruptive enough, which it was during Network Vision for Sprint, people were leaving the networks in high quantities. I mean, Sprint was losing like 500,000 customers a quarter in some of those quarters. So the network does play a role. It wasn't the best for T-Mobile throughout the Un-carrier movement. They were getting better each and every year, right? 2015, 16, 17, probably the better years of the network. And when they were largely done constructing it, they got the low band integrated into the network. Those were the best years of that network, right? And the churn started to reflect that. It's starting to get lower and lower and lower. Even during those times, their churn was still above 1%, but it was getting better. So now they got the Sprint spectrum, they got the higher capex. Now the network is getting even better once again, right? They got more low band now at scale with 600. They got 2.5 deployed close to 300 million pops. So now the churn came in at 0.77%. Maybe we get an even lower number at this quarterly earnings. So that's something that Verizon and AT&T really need to keep an eye on. They need to look at how is this affecting their business. I know they don't want to chase the lower end customer, but Verizon already claimed their churn bubble was there when they raised pricing. So those customers that are not growing the top line should have left already. Everyone that's leaving now, in my opinion, I would consider that to be a more higher end customer. And that's what T-Mobile's reflecting on their quarterly earnings. They're saying higher prime customers are joining the Un-carrier. That's a pretty big deal. And T-Mobile knows exactly what angles to attack this from. They know exactly how to change their perception. They know how to get to the other two mobile network operators with marketing effectively. And they know exactly the right moves and calls to make. Some of it is perceived negative, but that's just how the business world works. That's always been corporate America. This is nothing different, right? T-Mobile knew exactly, okay, we need to cut 5,000 people now. Inflation, it's costing us more to acquire customers. We want to continue growing at a high clip, so we need to lay these people off to reduce the balance sheet. And that's exactly what they did. Now, people are saying, well, what about the whole job positive day one? Again, I'm not trying to defend T-Mobile as a corporation, but times are different, right? The merger was announced like in end of 2017, early 2018. It didn't close till April 2020, and then all of this happened, right? We had COVID, inflation. Times now are different. Mike Sievert clearly stated that. He says it's costing them more to acquire customers, and it's costing them more to keep customers. Phone pricing is going up from the OEMs. So if T-Mobile continues to cover the device financing and give out these promo credits, it is going to cost them more, right? The next iPhone that's launching soon, right? The Apple event is September 12th. That's expected to be a higher price. So if T-Mobile has to cover a higher device promo credit, it's going to cost them more. So either they further cut back, or they push it off onto the consumer, onto the existing customer. And they don't want to do that. They don't really want to touch grandfather plans. They'd rather make new customers pay more, and that's been working so far. They had a 60% take rate on the quarterly earnings with the Magenta Max. They recently stated they still have a 60+% take rate on the Go 5G Plus of new customers joining T-Mobile. Now we'll see if we can get an answer to the mix of the Go 5G and what's the take rate on the Go 5G Next. That's going to be very important. But regardless, it's going to help their bottom line, right? They just cut labor. Maybe they cut it further, who knows, whatever the business requires, and they continue growing at the pace that they've been growing. That's going to mean more customers, more home internet that they can sell, right? The more people that come into those doors, the T-Mobile reps are being trained to check their address to see if they qualify. All of that gets the ball rolling. As long as the customer comes in the door, the store reps have the opportunity to make those sales. And overall, T-Mobile is just giving themselves an opportunity to do that with being very aggressive on marketing and everything else that they do. So again, very interesting. We already know when T-Mobile is hosting. This is very early, first time ever. I'm thinking maybe we get some hints and details from Mike Sievert. He told us at the last conference during Q2 that the numbers would be at or higher versus Q2 of last year. So maybe we get a similar statement from him in this conference, and that would be very interesting because that would already signal, okay, they're going to have a blowout quarter. So make sure you guys stay tuned for more. Like, share, subscribe. Follow my social media outlets. This is Tyrone with Tech Life, and I will see y'all in the next one. Peace.